Hello my lovelies and welcome back to my channel. Today is day 3 of our Menta Bucket Hat sew along. Today on day 3 we will be attaching the brim to the crown, and tomorrow we'll be putting together the whole hat, and the last day is for the back piece. So if you're not adding the back piece, you're basically finishing after 4 days. So let's start by attaching the brim to the hat, to the side seam that are already sewn into the crown from yesterday. I'll start with the bucket hat that is reversible, and I'm using that easy reversible method. So I'll basically be doing the same thing twice. First we'll be attaching the brim to the hat on the main, and then repeat the same thing for the lining, and that is pretty much all you have to do today if you're doing this option. So remember, the side seams will match the seams of the brim, will match the seams of the sides, and you're sewing right sides together, and you're also sewing on the inner circle. So the inner circle of your brim will be attached to the hat itself. So I'm matching the side seams and the quarter points, and then pretty much sewing in a circle. I guess I did not mark my quarter points on the brim yet. If you didn't mark them on day 1, just mark them right now like we did yesterday. And remember, right sides together. This is the narrow brim, so the shorter brim length. You could have right now a little longer one, that's the medium, and a long one, that's the largest brim, like I showed you on the hat that I made the other day. I love all the patterns included in this all the options included in this pattern. There's really something for everyone. And with summer break fast approaching, and the hiking trips and trips to the seaside or the ocean, everyone needs a hat for protection. So right now we're going to stitch all around the part that we pin with a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance, keeping those side seams open. I hope yesterday you pressed your side seams, because that will help them keep them open today. Again, it's a 1-to-1 ratio, so there will be no puckerings if you follow the correct seam allowance. Beautiful. So one side is done. Super cute. Set that aside. We're going to be working on the other brim. Let's mark the quarter points right now before we add it. And again, seam to seam, right sides together, keeping those seams open. And from day 1, remember, one of the seams is actually not sewn all the way. That's where we'll be birthing the hat through. Match the quarter points first and then add a couple of clips throughout. Today is a pretty quick day for all options. See, no puckers, everything fits perfectly 1-to-1 ratio. Now let's sew all around. So that is it. Give it a good press. If you're doing the reversible option, you are done for today. You should have 2 bucket hats looking similar if you're doing the reversible option. Snap a photo and post it in the day 3 comments of the sew along album, which is in Backstitch Backroom. So remember, I have a second hat that I'm working on, so we're going to be doing that one right now. And I have 2 brims that are the same fabric, and I've decided to add a trim to this one since it's an option included and some of you might need to see it. And for my trim, I'm going to be adding some nice blue piping. So let's start, since I'm adding piping, by switching the presser foot from my regular foot to a zipper foot. If I find it. It is a mess in here. There it is. So we're going to be adding a zipper foot for this step. And I'm going to start by adding the piping on the back where the seam is. So the wider part in the back is where I'm going to start. And the way I like to start when I add piping is to veer it off a little bit. So can you see here, there is a little piece that's sticking out here. So there's a piece that's veering off where the back seam is, and that's how I add my piping. I start with it a little veered off. Okay, and then I match the raw edge of the piping to the raw edge of the hat, and sew as close as possible to the cord part of the piping. The piping takes to the curve very well because it's cut on the bias. And going slow, I feed the piping all the way. If you have a piping foot on your machine, you can do that, but if not, a zipper foot will work just as great. Piping is definitely my favorite decorative trim. It's classic, it's timeless, it's not childish. Like, I love a good pom-pom, but I find it to be a little childish. I mean, I'm using a print that's for parks and childish, so I could have used pom-poms. I know, I'm not that delusional, but I don't know, I like piping better. So when you get to the point where you started, we're going to veer off the same way, overlapping a little bit. So here I'm veering off like so. Okay, go slow because you're sewing over the other cord right now. Okay, go over it and then backstitch. So now I'm going to trim off the excess piping, like so. And this is what it looks like. You can see the unicorn main thread and the raw edges. So now you're going to bring your lining piece. In my case, it's the same print because you can see it from both sides, so I want it to be the same print. And you're going to match and stitch all around the outside, like so. And we're going to do this step, since I'm using piping, again with the zipper foot on, so it sews much smoother and nicer. Again, I'm working on the outside of the high-low brim right now, or the regular brim, whichever you chose for your hat. Okay, we're back at the back part, and we're going to stitch just like we did before. And if you want, you can stitch over the initial stitch line to have like an extra guide. And go slow where you go over the piping, where those two pipings overlap, because there's a lot of cord there. Simply go all around. It's going to look so cute with that extra piping. Getting back to where we started. Okay, so now what you want to do, you want to turn it right side out. Give it a good press. And I do like to top stitch my brim, especially where the piping is, but I also like to do a few rows of top stitching around. So let's pull it out like so. So I run my tool through the seam allowance here, just to pull it out to look nice and flat. Doesn't it look cute with that accent there? Super adorable. And see, this is where we overlap the back on the piping. You can see it looks really pretty on the edge. And here, there. Super cute, right? And professional looking. So what I like to do right now is, since I still have my my foot there, my zipper foot, I'm going to do one row of top stitching right by the edge. I do need the zipper foot for that. I think I do. Actually, I do, yes. And I'm going to lengthen my stitch length to 3.5 for top stitching. Go slow where the seam is. And then as close as you can get it to that brim edge. For the rest of the top stitching, you won't need the zipper foot. You just need it for this part because it's close to the coil. Definitely pressing this would have helped too. So now we can get back to our regular presser foot. Gorgeous brim. What I like to do is do a basting stitch right where the brim will meet the crown, the hat tomorrow, just to keep those two layers in place, you know, around this. So I'll do a quick top stitching around there to keep those two layers in place. With less than 1/4 of an inch seam allowance, this way it will be in the seam allowance when we attach it tomorrow. Beautiful. So you've done your brim with decorative stitch. If you want, you can go ahead and do some rows of top stitching if you want around it. I don't want to on this one. I will do it on the bucket hat, 1 or 2 rows, but we'll do that tomorrow. So take a photo of your work for today, your progress for today, where you worked on your brim, and I will see you back here tomorrow for the final assembly of the actual hat. Talk to you soon. Bye.